A society to have order and to protect its citizens must have rules. Rules or laws are created and agencies are formed to enforce the rules. In the United States, you are innocent until proven guilty. Our judicial system, our courts, have the task of determining guilt. When guilt is found, the courts mete out the consequences. If we follow the rules of our society, we may never have to face the bar of justice inside a criminal courtroom. Join us now as we see an actual Lake County court in session.
You will all rise. Lake County Court is now in session. Honorable Judge Donna F. Miller presiding. Please be seated. Court will come to order.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Judge Miller. Could all of you, including visitors, please raise your right hands? Do each of you raise your right hand, please? Other right hand. Do each of you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and this you do under the pains and penalty of perjury? Okay, thank you. Put your hands down. Each of you has a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. When you get to the microphone, I need to know if you're under 18. I need to know if you're not a citizen of the United States because pleading today could affect your immigration status. I need to know if you're on probation or parole because pleading today could affect your probation or parole status. If you plead today, you're giving up your right to have a trial and to have an attorney represent you at that trial. If I sentence you today on a criminal case, you have to go down to room 105 and either pay the mandatory costs or sign up for the payment plan. Today, we're being videotaped and tape recorded. Okay, this is in custody. Next, we have Jeffrey Johnson to the microphone. All right, you are charged with violating your DUI probation. Mr. Sandor, this is Jeffrey Johnson. Do you have a recommendation? This is the only thing that has him in jail.
Yes, Your Honor. As to case number 2012 CT 3339, violation of probation for a DUI, the state's offers an adjudication of guilt, 90 days in the Lake County Jail with credit for time served and any gain time earned. His probation would be revoked and terminated, all outstanding costs assessed as mandatory, and his driver's license would remain in a D6 state until his DUI conditions are complete.
That's fine, but I also have a ticket, Your Honor, that you sentenced me to. It was due 20 hours of community service.
On a different case?
Yes, ma'am.
In my hand, I have a failure to drive in a single lane. You're suspended for not paying that. Mm-hmm. I have a loitering and prowling.
I did that.
20 days in jail, and that one's closed, but you still owe mandatories on it. Then we had a leaving the scene. That's the one you're talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
I sentenced you to a suspended sentence of 29 days. You had to either pay $200 or do 20 hours of community service or do 29 days in jail, no new law violations. And you're wanting to go ahead and do the 29 days now?
Yes, ma'am. I want to get it all done so I can get on my life.
Okay, hang on just a moment. Miss Angie, we're doing an order of commitment on Mr. Johnson. I've forgotten how many days in jail did he say for the?
90, ma'am.
Okay, so the 20 will run concurrent with the?
With the 90?
With the 90.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, then failure to use a designated lane, you remain, that is due in February, and if you don't take care of it by then, your license gets suspended for the civil ticket, failing to use a designated lane.
Could I just take care of that right now, ma'am?
You mean with jail time?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let me see. You have this one.
I'd like to get it all done, so I have a job in Memphis I'd like to go to.
And you'd rather do an extra 5 days in jail,
Yes, ma'am.
even though if you have a job in Memphis, you can send the money back and pay for it.
No, ma'am, I want to get it all done.
Okay. You have a failure to drive in a single lane, and you have a failure to use a designated lane. Miss Angie, could you make these 5 days consecutive? 5 days consecutive. These are concurrent with each other, but consecutive to all of this. So when he's through with the 90 days, he has 5 more to do for the tickets.
Then I'm done, right, ma'am?
Well, don't do that. Do it this way. Change the DUI to 95 days instead of 90, and do those 2 times served. All right, if you have any issues, because it's a bit convoluted, give us a holler. Charles Gajewski. Mr. Gajewski, you are charged with a 3rd offense, driving under the influence. Mr. Sandor, what's your recommendation?
Your Honor, these are 3 within 10, so this is being upmanded to felony court.
So there's nothing we can do today. You're going to need an attorney because this is going to be a felony. Are you able to afford a private attorney, or do you need the public defender?
I'm probably going to need a public defender.
How much do you make a week?
Right around 300.
All right, I'll appoint the public defender. They probably won't have the paperwork yet, so they won't know who your felony attorney should be. So wait a few days and then make an appointment. You'll tell them where to call? Oh, that's right. All right, thank you. Maria Lizaldi, to the microphone, please. Ms. Lizaldi signed a plea agreement for the no valid driver's license, but she also has a ticket for overtaking on the right. All right, this says she's behind a vehicle waiting to take a left, and she went around the vehicle to the right off the road. The only time you can go around the right is when the road is extended for that purpose.
La única vez que usted puede entonces pasar a la mano derecha es cuando la calle, la vía de tránsito está hecha para eso.
You cannot drive off the road to pass another vehicle. Mr. Sandor, she pled to the criminal charge, so if she enters a no contest plea to the traffic charge, I'll waive the fine because it says just one of her tires went off onto the roadway, so it wasn't real dramatic. So if she enters a no contest plea, I'll withhold a finding of guilt and I'll waive the fine, but it will be on her record if she ever does get a driver's license.
Usted se declaró culpable. Si usted se declara no me opongo de haber hecho esto, de pasar a la mano derecha, entonces la puede después.
Okay, Ms. Haney?
Yes, Your Honor. Okay, tome asiento.
Alan Lomnick? Okay, where's Alex Vieira? You'll be next. Just as soon as he's finished, jump right up to the microphone. Mr. Lomnick?
Yes, ma'am.
You are charged with attaching a tag not assigned, a very popular charge right now. You drive a 1999 Ford.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you had that vehicle?
About 3 to 4 years, and I put that tag on right after I bought it, and I had the paperwork and it shows it was on there when.
So have you renewed it each year?
No, ma'am, I didn't change the tag. No, ma'am.
Well, you have to update your tag every year.
This year I have been having a lot of sickness in the family, and I didn't get down in time to get it changed before my birthday, and I thought I had the 31st to get it changed, but I didn't.
Okay,
So
but he didn't.
I'm
Okay, he
guilty.
charged you with expired attaching a tag not assigned and expired registration. So the tag that was on the vehicle when he stopped it, I have the tag number. He says that's not the tag that belongs on the Ford, but you have some paperwork that says it is.
Yes, ma'am, I believe it.
Mr. Boone, could you help him get the paperwork and show it to Mr. Sandor while I go on with the next case?
I'm so nervous I can't.
Alex Vieira, to the microphone, please. Mr. Vieira, you are charged with marijuana and a first offense DUI. Most people with a DUI would like to talk to an attorney before they decide what to do. But if you want to plead today, it would be standard DUI sanctions. Do you think you want to plead today, or do you want to say not guilty and talk to an attorney?
Good morning, Your Honor, first of all. But at the same point, they didn't have me do a breathalyzer test. I don't understand why I got a DUI. Yeah, because it said that I, blew under the amount to be anything serious like that. I did drink one beer, I admit,
Okay, it
But it was
says you
like-
blew underneath the .08.
way under, and it's
right,
because I had drank way earlier one beer.
I'm sorry, I was talking, so I didn't hear what you
Oh,
said.
my apologies.
Okay, there are some people who could take a sip of alcohol and be impaired. There's some people who could drink beyond the legal limit and they're only impaired because the law says you can't go over a .08. You were under a .08. The officer said you had marijuana also, so they may say you were impaired by drugs as well as alcohol. There was an officer who's an expert on drugs who was involved in this stop. Your headlight was out, so you got stopped for your
For
headlight
headlight.
being out, no bad driving.
Nothing at all.
When the officer approached you, he said your eyes were bloodshot, you're having trouble talking, your response didn't make sense. They found marijuana and you blew .0. Oh my goodness. I looked at the wrong thing. You only blew .02.
Yeah, it was really not much alcohol at all that I drunk, and I also waited at least an hour to be able to drive. He made up most of the stuff that I was incoherent and things like that, because I really spoke clearly, and I mean,
Where had you been earlier?
where had I been earlier? I actually was at a friend's house. I was just visiting, we had a little get-together, just talked amongst
Okay,
friends.
so you had not been at a bar or
No,
restaurant?
nothing like that. That's why I only drank one beer, and I waited.
Your Honor, Master Deputy Sandy Chester was on scene as a drug recognition expert, performed some exercises on the defendant, and determined that he was under the influence of either alcohol and/or drugs.
Okay, being under the influence of marijuana doesn't make you impaired.
Correct.
So there's nothing here that says he was impaired.
The last paragraph of the last sentence of the first page of the probable cause affidavit, I see that based upon Master Deputy Chester's observation on the DRE evaluation, she believes the subject to be under the influence of marijuana.
And you'll notice it doesn't say to the extent that he was impaired.
Right, Your Honor.
Well, the jury could find that having a headlight out is an indication of impairment. I don't know about that. Marijuana is illegal, so whatever happens with the other, you can be sentenced on the marijuana. There are people who could be impaired by a sip of alcohol, but nothing here shows that you were impaired.
I wasn't.
So I don't know what the state will plan to do with the driving under the influence charge, but they have a lot of evidence on the marijuana charge.
I understand that's
But if you pled today, I think the offer would include the DUI, which isn't what you should be doing today. So are you going to wait until the next court date? Are you going to get a private attorney? Do you want me to appoint the public defender? Or do you want to just wait until the next court date and see what they offer you?
Well, considering that I wasn't under the influence at all,
Whoa, you
Like
were
that.
under the influence of marijuana, it appears. I think you might have even confessed. But they found it in the vehicle, and I think you took a urine screen, right?
yes.
Okay, so that could come back that there was marijuana in your system.
And if I can go clean right now,
What?
if I can,
But you took the test then, we'll get the results soon.
okay,
No point in you paying for another one.
okay. Well, I don't know. I just really don't want a DUI under my record for.
I can't blame you.
For
So are you
for
going to get a
something-
private attorney, or do you need the public?
I need a public defender. 'Cause
How much do you make a week?
Me, maybe. I work 2 jobs, so really like 500-600.
Then you make too much money for the public defender. Are you supporting anyone besides yourself?
My grandma, I'm actually like her caretaker. She actually has like a respirator that she breathes and things like that. So
And you support her? She doesn't
She
get
doesn't pay her bills. I pay her bills.
with her money or your money?
My money.
All right, I'll appoint the public defender. Excuse me. There'll be a $250 minimum charge for their services, and you'll need to make an appointment to talk to them.
Thank you, Your Honor.
But,
Mr. Lomnick, we're going back to Mr. Lomnick.
Mr. Lumnick's tag was not misassigned, but expired.
So we can dismiss the attaching a tag not assigned
Do we have an additional charge? Is it,
of expired registration.
we do? Then yes, Your Honor, we can.
He's present. We dismiss the criminal charge of attaching a tag not assigned. Sorry about that, sir. Then you have a ticket for an expired registration. Your registration expires on your birthday, not the end of the month. But I think having to come to court today and chat with us is enough of a punishment. So it will show on your record that you had this charge. I'm withholding a finding of guilt, and I'll waive the fine. Okay, so then it made it worth your while to be here today.
Hasta marzo.
Jonathan Barubi to the microphone, please. Mr. Barubi, you're charged with driving while license suspended. Do you have a valid driver's license now?
No.
How come? How come?
I haven't paid anything to get it back to reinstated.
Your license was suspended for 2 years for controlled substance. Excuse me, that time will be up next month. Then you got a ticket in Orange you haven't paid, and a ticket in Lake County you haven't paid. So because you're suspended for drugs, this is jail time. How old are you?
22.
And you have a violation of a traffic control device. You're doing 57 and a 40. Mr. Barubi, you knew you were not allowed to drive. You got suspended for 2 years for drugs, and you allegedly got caught driving. That's 10 days in jail. How did you get here today?
My sister brought me here.
Where's your sister?
She left. And whenever I was done, she was going to come back and pick me up whenever everything was done.
Well, that'd be in 10 days.
Can I plead not guilty?
You can plead not guilty. Are you able to afford a private attorney, or do you need the public defender?
I need a public defender, please.
It'll be $250 for the public defender. If the state can prove you were suspended, and they can prove that just by showing me this piece of paper, if they can prove you were driving, that would be the officer's testimony, I can sentence you up to 2 months in jail. I'll appoint the public defender, and you'll need to go make an appointment. Justin Brown, please. Mr. Brown, thank you for dressing so respectfully for the court. Mr. Brown, you had a disorderly conduct and a resisting. That's your new charge. Last month, I sentenced you on a paraphernalia and a cannabis.
Yeah, that was the weird thing where they arrested my father, and they arrested my father and came into my room. Remember?
Now I do.
Yes, ma'am.
But 2 weeks ago, you got a new disorderly intoxication and resisting.
Yes, ma'am. I actually found out that morning my parents separated after 25 years, and I lost it for a day, and I'm going to
This
AA
is
now. And
losing it, as far as I'm concerned, twice.
they're just the once, ma'am. I just got one bad day.
I told you if you got in any more trouble with the law, it'd be 29 days in jail.
I thought it was drugs.
No new law violations. 29 days if you had any new law violations. This is a new law violation. I have an order right here for 29 days.
Can I plead not guilty to this?
You can plead not guilty to the new one, but it doesn't change the fact that you have a new law violation and it violates your first one. I said any new law violations, and it's 29 days in jail.
Yes, ma'am. I thought it was any drug violations because I don't do drugs. I mean, it's just I had a bad day and I was drinking, and that's it. And I learned from it. But I mean, I don't do drugs. The whole drug thing, that was just a whole misunderstanding where my father got arrested for beating me and my mom. and they took me to jail. I mean,
You got sentenced on it, and I told you no new law violations.
yes, ma'am. I thought it was no drug violations. That's what I.
No new law So if you'd realized it was no new law violations, then you wouldn't have had a disorderly conduct and a resisting without violence?
I probably would have laid in bed and cried instead of going out drinking and been stupid that day. I've definitely learned my lesson from what I did. It's just been, it's really torn me apart. I'm gonna go see a psychiatrist about it. Just when my parents get a divorce, it's really torn me down.
The officer observed you causing a disturbance. You started a physical altercation. Security team separated you, told you to move along. A short time later, a woman comes up to the officer and says that you were starting a fight with teenage children. I approached the defendant, advised him he was being ejected from the park due to his intoxication. The defendant then stated he wasn't going anywhere.
Yes, ma'am. I was trying just to get my friends so I could get a ride out of there because they were making me walk
No,
to
you
the
don't
road.
tell the officer I'm not going anywhere. I managed to escort the defendant out of the concert area along with the security team. The defendant became aggressive and started to physically resist the security team. I then restrained the defendant on the hood of my patrol car. The defendant pushed the head of a security officer. Still, they didn't arrest you. The defendant was then escorted down to the entrance and told to leave. My goodness, they were lenient. The defendant was told several more times, still refused to leave. At that point, I placed him in handcuffs and arrested him for trespass after warning, which isn't one of the charges.
I believe that at that time, the people running the concert decided to let him go, and then,
They let him go again?
yes.
After a few minutes, the defendant calmed down and the head of security said, go ahead and release him, just get him off the property. I agreed.
That's when I tried to find her
I'm
ride.
reading.
Sorry.
I agreed, and he was released. The defendant started walking towards the entrance. Approximately 3 minutes later, the defendant was walking back up the entranceway, harassing other patrons. At that time, the defendant was placed in handcuffs and placed under arrest. The defendant physically resisted our handcuffing and hindered us from trying to handcuff him. He was transported to the jail. Okay, Mr. Brown, now you have your own worries to consume you. It's 29 days on the first one. Did you do any of the conditions yet? Had you
I
two
actually-
clean screens?
I got all the paperwork ready. I
Show
was
me.
going to do it this week. I got the paper.
Oh, you haven't done it. You have the paperwork to go do it.
Yes, ma'am. I'm getting it all set up to do like this week or next week because like I said, I'm clean. I don't do drugs.
Okay, well, never mind. It's 29 days in jail. You don't have to do any of those conditions anymore. And if you enter a no contest plea to the new charge, the same 29 days will take care of both cases.
So they'll go together.
Yes, but you're going to jail because I told you no new law violations and,
It's 29 days and everything's done.
except for the mandatory costs.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. I mean,
How'd you get here today?
I really did not do what they said, but
Well, you're welcome to say not guilty. I'll appoint the public defender, and they may have a video of a lot of it.
I mean, if you're gonna run it together, it's kind of, I'd rather just do that, I guess.
Okay, 29 days for all of it. And how'd you get here today?
My mom and fiance.
Mom and fiance, where are you? He's gonna give you all his stuff. Come on up and get his stuff. It's 29 days concurrent, the order of commitment, and then 29 concurrent on the new one. Okay, next we have Kody Pierce. Well, that's a bummer that you're the first person dressed so well, and then I couldn't give you a break on that. right, and we have another person dressed nicely. Thank you for dressing so respectfully for the court. Mr. Kody Pierce. Mr. Brown, I appreciate that you were dressed so respectfully for the court today. It's not much, but change it to 25 days.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
It just knocks off 4, but I appreciate that you dressed respectfully today, and I want to encourage that.
How many days?
Down to 20, it was 29, we're gonna do 25. It's not much, but something. All right, Mr. Kody Pierce. You heard all the talk we did about the,
Yes, ma'am.
You-
I signed up to take the course this weekend.
so if we put this off till next month, you can come in with your motorcycle endorsement.
Yes, ma'am.
If you have it, just go to the traffic window and we'll dismiss it. If you don't have it by your next court date, then come in here and explain to me why. 1 month's enough?
Yes, ma'am.
12. 8 a.m. Court will dismiss with motorcycle endorsement. All right, we'll get you your paperwork. Next, we have Weston Smith to the microphone, please. Mr. Smith, you've been charged with marijuana and paraphernalia.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sandor, this is Weston Smith. What's the state recommending?
Your Honor, as to count 1, it's an adjudication of guilt, 59 days in the Lake County Jail suspended upon payment of a $200 fine, completion of the stop class, providing 2 clean urine screens at least 30 days apart, and committing no new crimes, all to be done within the next 6 months. With a plea today, the state would dismiss count 2. And additionally, if he does not provide proof that he has completed the stop class, the state would request that his driver's license be suspended for 2 years.
Does he have priors?
He has a criminal history, Your Honor.
Okay.
but no priors.
All right, so we can't offer him PTI. Mr. Smith, we drop count 2 and sentence you on count 1. Are you accepting the deal?
Can I plead not guilty?
You can plead not guilty, so nothing's being dropped. There's a maximum sentence of 2 years in jail, maximum 2 years probation, maximum $2,000, and then all the conditions. So if you pled today, the state would drop count 2, and you heard what they do with count 1.
So that's no jail time if I do plea?
I did not hear, I heard that if you don't finish, you
Okay.
go to jail, but there's no jail time today.
Correct. You have to complete these conditions: a $200 fine, the stop class, and 2 clean urine screens at least 30 days apart, and not get arrested again within the next 6 months. If you fail to do any of those things within the next 6 months, it would be 59 days.
But the stop class is a 4-hour class, so it's a pretty standard good deal.
Okay.
Unless, there's some mistake in what we have here. If, for instance, you don't do marijuana and you could test clean right now to show you don't do marijuana, it wasn't yours. If you want to take a drug screen right now, marijuana stays in your system at least 30 days, for some people up to 90 days.
Yes.
This happened within a month, so if you were to do a test today and it was clean, it could be a good indication that you were not using on that day.
I've been clean for the past 3 weeks now because I'm trying to get a job at the prison in Lake County, actually. But I probably would not.
Okay, so you're going to take the deal then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You just misunderstood when you read it? You
Yeah.
thought it was jail now?
Yeah, I misunderstood.
Okay. That's why I tried to repeat it, so. Absolutely.
Just put it on the paperwork over there, sir.